You are an Iron Man!
Hi everyone and welcome to episode 82. Today we're going to have a look back at the Alpe d'Huez event 2026 and help us through that. I am joined today by Stevie, McKenna and Conor Maguire from Omagh Triathlon Club. I'd like to come to you first, Stevie, and welcome you back onto the podcast.
No problem, Mick. Good to be back on, and you're doing great work, so great to be able to help out.
Good man, thank you very much. Stevie, for anybody that doesn't know anything about the Alpe d'Huez, give us a very brief overview of the event, kind of what it entails, and a bit of a breakdown, if you can remember, with regards to the whole distances.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alpe d'Huez is a ski resort based in southeast France in the Alps. Absolutely stunning, spectacular location. I've never in that part of the world before, so it just blew me away how stunning it was. The event then is sort of a privately owned event. They offer a suite of events across the whole triathlon. There's a long distance event. There's a mid distance event. There's a duathlon, and then there's a kids event as well, which is brilliant because it's a real family event. It's not as formal as an Ironman event. So, for example, coming up to the line, people were able to cross the line with their children and things like that. So it's a brilliant atmosphere. And whilst the bigger events are called long distance and mid distance, that's not the same format as your traditional long distance and mid distance. They're very different animals. So they're quite unusual in that respect. So the long distance, good squad of us over from Omagh Triathlon Club. There was a bunch of us did the long distance event, which is a 2.2k swim, 118k bike, about 73 miles, and then a 12-mile run or a 20k run up on top of the ski resort, because you finish off going up that. The mid distance event was about 1,500 meter swim. Then it was just one climb, which was the famous Alpe d'Huez climb, and then a shorter run. And the duathlon also takes an Alpe d'Huez, so something for everybody really, including kids, which is brilliant.
It sounds fantastic, and it was brilliant watching all you guys in the Omagh Triathlon Club in the WhatsApp, all the wee videos and the photographs coming. Absolutely spectacular scenery. The lake itself looked absolutely phenomenal. Talk us through what it was about this particular triathlon, because it's a wee bit niche, it's a wee bit different. It's the sort of thing that kind of makes people think, I think maybe it's just because it is that wee bit different. What was it for you that kind of brought your attention to the event?
Well, there was a bunch of our club members did it a few years ago, and they were obviously talking about horror stories about how hard it was and, how difficult it was, which, because we're all sickos and love a bit of pain, that sort of caught a lot of attention. And then some of the other club members came up with the idea of a group of us doing it this year. And, Alpe d'Huez is famous for the Tour de France. I'm big into cycling. Always thought myself I'd love to go and see some of the roads where the Tour de France was, and I've never had the opportunity before. So I thought, right, this could tick a number of boxes, and then double it up with a family holiday as well. So for me, it was about the experience and about the opportunity to see and cycle on those roads that are so famous.
Talk us through how you got on the day. There was a great wee video of you, and it was we all had a bit of a chuckle at it, because there's a bit of, with you going down, there's like a sort of a slope down into the lake, and you have a wee bit of a wobble at the top. You kind of lose your footing a wee bit, you have a bit of a slip. Thankfully you weren't injured, you didn't get hurt or nothing, but it could have been quite nasty. So after the slip, you getting into the water. Talk us through the swim, I suppose, first.
Well, you know me, Mickey, there's always a bit of a drama with me. And actually the drama for me started a couple of weeks before that, because sort of building up to Alpe d'Huez, I had done a couple of other events. So I did Harbourman, the national championships in Wicklow. And in that was probably about 5 weeks beforehand. And I got a bad kick in the ribs in the swim in that. And I had really bad bruised ribs for 3 weeks. So couldn't swim or run for 3 weeks. That was kind of leading up to Triathlon. And then, had a good event in Triathlon. The day after, we went out for a bike ride, sort of just to double up for a bit of endurance. And I got taken off by a motorist. I got taken off the bike. Road rage incident. A pensioner, unfortunately, decided didn't like cyclists. And lo and behold, when I landed on the ground, I landed in the same part of the ribs as I had already hurt before. So even before getting to the event, before getting to that slip, I was pretty sore and I'd lost, 5 weeks swimming and running. So, and then lo and behold, when you go to enter the lake, it's a very steep, bank going down into it. So of course my feet went from under me and nearly ended up on my arse. So, but I swim a stunning location. It's in Lake Daverney, which is, at about, it's down in the sort of in the valley from Alpe d'Huez. It's a reservoir where there's a EDF hydroelectric power station. So you're not allowed to swim in that lake any part of the year because of the currents caused by the power station. So on the day the power station's switched off effectively or doesn't use the water. So it's a unique experience in that respect. And the water was Baltic because the water's coming down off the mountains. So it was very fresh. Didn't have a great swim. For whatever reason, just really struggled to get going, struggled to get my breath, ended up stopping about 200 meters in, to get myself organised. And it felt like forever coming back towards the finish. But anyway, got through the swim, and actually for the woman who took part in the mid-distance event, they had a really challenging swim because there was a real strong wind coming up the lake and there was a real strong current. And at the turning point, they had to go between two boys, and they were all swept back towards the finish area and really had to work hard just even to get around the turning point. So the swim was by no means, it looked pretty, but it was not straightforward. Like some of the swimmers who are a lot stronger than me got battered and flipping punched and dragged, and it wasn't a pretty experience now, but I suppose that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? So got through the swim, and then for us straight onto the bike then, which was say 73 miles, with 3 major climbs, each about 10 miles each. The third climb is the famous Alpe d'Huez, which is 21 switchbacks. And that finishes at 1,850 meters. So like, in Sperrins terms, thinking about our local hills, which are like bumps in the road in comparison, these are major, major climbs. And I think a lot of us probably underestimated the toughness of the earlier 2 climbs. Because again, just 10 miles long, pretty relentless. And then because I'm not as strong a swimmer, I'm coming out way behind, so I have a lot of traffic to get through. So for me, the important thing was in that first hour or so was trying to navigate some of that traffic safely. Of course, in the first flipping mile, my gel bottle fell off the bike, so I had to stop and go back and get it because I didn't fancy getting a couple hours in and hitting the wall with no energy. So, hey, that's just the nature of the beast again. You have to, it's, for me anyway, it's about experience, and every day is a learning day,
Talk me
So,
through the actual navigating the traffic, because with it being such a climb, and I know you're a very strong cyclist, and most of the men that went out to do the long distance event are all very strong on the bike. Was there maybe cyclists maybe more around my caliber, maybe sort of middle of the pack, sort of Joe Blogg's average kind of cyclists that were maybe using different tactics and weaving? Was there boys going backwards and forwards and going up the hill, or was it wasn't that steep at these points, or what
no,
did
so
it
your
look like
first,
from your perspective?
the first climb came at 16 miles, and it was nearly 10 miles long. And I had drove the course the day before, so I knew the lay of the land. It was a very fast first 15 miles. First 5 miles was quite technical through a town and speed ramps and that type of thing. And then for 10 miles it was very fast, big wide open roads, downhill. So I suppose that was very much about staying safe and keeping out of harm's way. And that first climb, then hitting that, it was really just a case of making up as much progress, because I think I came out of the water maybe 1100th, so it was over 1,000th out of the water. I think by the end of the cycle I had made up with like 800 spots or something.
Unreal.
But like, again, it's just incredible going up climbs that length. It's so hard. Like, the first climb took over an hour just to get up the first climb. So making up a lot of progress, but it's so easy to get carried away, and especially when you're going past the cyclists and you sort of think, geez, you're going well, but just trying to keep on top of the nutrition, try and keep on top of the hydration, particularly given how hot it was as well. So that was, for me, real focus was just trying to keep on top of that, trying to keep calm within a reason, but also, push on a bit, because I know 2 weeks. So 2 weeks before I did Triathlon, like, I had a brilliant bike split that day. I had particularly, trained through most of the earlier season races. So when I had freshened up and tapered up properly, I knew I was in good shape bike wise. But then I suppose that bit of setback with the get taken off the bike, I wasn't sure where I was, but I was willing to give it a hook anyway and see how far it got me up the road. So that was good. I probably overdid it in the first part of the bike and then suffered for it in the second half of the bike. Like, I went for a rim brake bike. That's just, I don't have a road bike that'd be as good for with discs on it. That was a learning curve, because again, the descents were very technical, very fast. So disc brakes would have been a big advantage. And interestingly, a big proportion of the field were on time trial bikes. But we all had opted for road bikes because there was just so much climbing. Like, overall, about 35 miles of climbing in the race. So for me, I opted over comfort and just feeling comfortable on the bike rather than just pure speed. And also, because my bike's older, I haven't got the same gear ratio on it. Like, normally I would ride no more than a 25 tooth cassette on the back. Those cyclists will know what that is. Whereas a more up-to-date bike would have up to a 34 in the back. That day I had a 30 tooth cassette on, but I definitely needed more gears. Like, I was able to manage it, but just over that sheer distance, it definitely took it out of me. And halfway through, my lower back was really sore, just with the amount of load I was putting on it, with probably sitting and trying to change my position. But yeah, I got through the bike. I was definitely goosed by the final climb going up it, but there was great support. Again, the support from our club members on the final climb was fantastic. And then as you come up on the Alpe d'Huez, there was more and more spectators, and it really just gave you that extra bit of energy, So that was the bike hike. Thankfully, got through it safely, which again for me was a priority. And I had said to the rest of the club members, priority has to be through getting through it safely. And because it was a technical course, I come on some really bad crashes on the hairpin bends and some of the descents. So definitely didn't take that for granted. And yeah, and I've not got the best track record in getting through events in one piece. So I was definitely erring on the side of caution, because my wife and my kids were there, so I didn't want to screw up the whole holiday just trying to act a big man.
Stevie, you absolutely got through the bike all right. It's probably fair enough to say you smashed it in terms of where you came out of at the beginning, at the bottom of that hill, 1100, and taking souls all the way up to the top, taking over 800 people. Absolutely phenomenal. Talk us through then the run. Obviously, the run's up at altitude. Did you find that had any impact? And as well as that, I suppose the heat on the day as well would have had been a big factor as well.
Yeah, massively. Like, yeah, it's hard to tell with the air, the elevation. Like, there's no doubt it would have had a factor, but the heat was the biggest problem. And just trying to get fluid in, but also trying to get salt in and hydrate, the electrolytes. So that was a big focus. But by the last climb, I was goosed. Like, I was just struggling just to keep the pedals turning to get up that climb. So coming in the transition for the run, between my lower back, my battery had went dead on my watch, so I had no heart rate or anything to sort of gauge my effort. And my chest was quite sore where my ribs were bruised. And I think that maybe the heart rate belt was also on that spot. I had a new tri suit on, which was tight, so just didn't feel good. Got into transition, and best I could do was just walk out of transition. And that kind of event, again, there was a bunch of us in the race, and we're all brilliant competitors, and we've got a really good friendly rivalry. And I said that to the guys, like, we get the best out of each other. It's not, we're not trying to get one over on each other. We're really trying to push each other on. It's good motivation for each other. So the fact that each of us were on the course too was great support for each other, high-fiving each other and giving a shout out. So that was good and a bit of a lift on. And I know actually some of the other club members really did pull each other through, which was fantastic. Just saying, right, get your finger out, lads, you're coming with me, and pulling each other on the run. But on the run, like, I didn't feel good, and with just no metrics to go on and the heat and everything, I just said, play it safe. So I just took a walk run strategy and just again played it safe with the family there. And again, it's such a spectacular location. For me, it was about trying to keep looking around and enjoying it as well. Because the experience is just so different to anything else. Like, it was just breathtaking. So for me on the run, I was more focused on just trying to enjoy it, try and take it all in, de-risk it, with a walk run. Just I walked on the hills. So it wasn't, definitely wasn't a good run for me, but that wasn't that important at that stage. For me, it was about just enjoying the experience, being really thankful for being there in the first place, because it easily might not have been the case. And really just trying to absorb it all in, give the boys a shout whenever I met them. It's probably the best shape I've finished a triathlon in, because by the end of it, I was fresh. I was able to enjoy it, come into the finish line, and I was really able to take it all in, and I wasn't falling over in a heap, like I normally do. So that was all a bonus.
I'm curious to find out the logistics of this one, because it's also very unusual in terms of the setup. Transition 1's obviously at the bottom of a hill. Transition 2's way at the top of the hill. And our traditional triathlons are all based around the same transition area. So you're swimming, you're getting on your bike at the bottom of the hill, you're leaving your bike at the top of the hill, and then you're doing a run somewhere else. So the start and finish are miles and miles apart and thousands of feet up. How does the man then find out where his bike is, or where do you get back? Is there buses? The only thing that comparable that I'm thinking about is the Great North Run in England, where you run from wherever it is to South Shields, and then you have to wait on a bus to take you back to the start to pick up your stuff. What was the setup in Alpe d'Huez triathlon? How does all that work?
Yeah, so as you say, logistics was a big thing to focus on. So what you get other options were take a bus down to the start, or drive down to the start, or cycle down to the start. So cycling was about 45 minutes. Even driving down was about 40 minutes drive from Alpe d'Huez village down to the lake. But you also could get a gondola, like a cable car, which again was another sort of massively just spectacular way to do it. So on the morning, getting yourself to the lake, it wasn't straightforward. Some people left their bikes down the day before. Some people took their bikes down that morning. And then you left your kit bag there, and then they took your kit bag up to T2, which is back up at the ski resort. And they had a football pitch there all laid out. So, and that's actually a point, a fantastically organized event. Really, really slick. Like, all the water stations were brilliant. There was no shortage of kit. Everything was really top class in terms of organization. And none of us had any issues in terms of bags or transition or anything like that. So, whilst there was a bit of logistics, it was really, really well organized and done to a T.
So your transition 1, normally whenever you're coming out of the swim, you know where you're going to your bike, you have a fair idea where it is, the third row in, sort of halfway down, you've got a number, you have a reference point, you can see your towel, you can see this, that and the other. Going to a completely different transition to rack your bike before you go on the run. Was it a very similar setup? Presume it was, but you talk me through that. Was it a similar setup, or was it just all numbers and you just ran to your number, rack your bike, and away you go?
No, well, the nice thing about it was, as club members, we were all together, so our numbers were all together, and then to put all by nation, you were grouped by your nation, so all the Irish competitors were together, which was nice as well because then you were getting to know people and that, and plus when you came out in the next transition, you could see, oh, am I ahead or behind or whatever, you know. So, and actually coming out of the water, we were right beside the water exit, so it was really convenient for us. So the fact that we were all together made it a bit simpler, and we had sort of sussed it out in advance where the bikes would be and T2. So no, that all worked really, really well, you know. And again, just top class organization.
Cool. Sounds like a real nice way of doing it too. Just group everybody together, all the neighbours. Brilliant stuff. Overall, then, Stevie, it sounds brilliant. It absolutely looked phenomenal. Absolute spectacular scenery. Would you rate it as an event? Would it be a highly recommended? Is it a bucket list thing? Where does it compare with what you've done before and what maybe lies ahead in terms of the Ironman vibe, the Branton, all that sort of stuff? Does it stack up?
It definitely does. Like, you know, I suppose I've not, you know, I'm still relatively new to the whole scene. Like, I've only done one Ironman event, so I can't compare it to much else. But I definitely would say, you know what, I know it's renowned as a bucket list event. Like, it definitely is, just because as a location, it is just such a spectacular place to be swimming, biking, and running. Um, and just to be there, apart from the event, just to be there in that kind of part of the world was just, you know, for me, it blew me away completely, and just how beautiful it was. And then just to have the privilege of, say, riding on those roads that the Tour de France riders ride on. And actually, because the Tour de France was only there like a week or so before us, you know, all the fresh paint was on the roads, all the Pogacar and Evenepoel and all that. So you could still get the buzz from the Tour de France, and it's just such a fantastic set up place. Obviously, it's a ski resort in the winter, but for the summer, it's heavily focused on mountain biking and cycling in general. So the infrastructure is top class in terms of, you know, cable cars, buses. So as an event, I would absolutely recommend it. Like, for me, it'd be one of the ones to do, and I would not discount going back. Even do the middle distance, you know, just to be able to go back to the location and just to sort of be able to be part of that whole scene again. So, I wouldn't get put off. Yes, the bike is really hard in terms of terrain, but you know, if you respect it, you know, it's still manageable. You know, again, we were speaking to a few people, and that was there was one person that was their second ever triathlon. I think he was maybe Spanish or French, and second ever triathlon, like, and that was it, you know, straight in at the deep end on the long distance, you know. So, you know, a fair play to people who are willing to have a go. And it's like any Ironman event, you know, you just have to put your preparation in. And I know from the other lads who have done like Ironman Lanzarote and some of them really tough events, like they rated this harder than any of the other Ironman events they've done. So I suppose that's testament to just what it's like, you know. But everybody, I think, had a magic time, and just to be able to spend a few days around then, like there's a swimming pool outside, that, you know, public swimming pool, and just like 35 degrees up in the Alps, going for a swim, like it's just out of this world, you know. So completely recommend it. Anybody who's into the sport, just for an experience class.
The other thing as well, Stevie, which is a bit of a novelty for the majority of us, was because the long distance was on the first day, the mid distance race went on the next day, and whatever other events then as well, presumably. So it was nice then for you guys to be able to watch the mid distance race the next day and cheer on the other club mates that were participating in that event. I have actually never seen a triathlon. I have never watched a triathlon, because anytime anything to do with triathlon, I'm in it, and if I'm not in it, I'm not there. Do you know what I mean? So it would have been nice just to actually be there as well, to see the thing. What was it like as a spectator?
Oh, it was brilliant. You know, so the day before, or maybe 2 days before, it started off with a duathlon, and the kids event was on that day as well, which, like, kids from 6 years of age and was like different age groups up. And like that was just fantastic. Seeing these wee kids like on balance bikes and stuff, so they were so young. So that was a really good way to start. Then, as you say, we did our event next, and then for the mid distance, just being able to go out to support the women, give them a shout, see them in the swim. Like for me, it was fantastic to see them in the lake and just see how tough it was, because when you're in the water, you have no appreciation of that. And they all come out smiling and just loving it, like, and being able to cheer them on the bikes as well and on the run, was something else. And like there was plenty of, a good sort of cadre of Irish athletes over as well. So being able to see the other jerseys and give them a shout, and so that was all great. Like so that was a brilliant part of it as well. Just seeing everybody and just being part, stuck in, cheering them on.
Sounds absolutely amazing. Up next, we'll have a chat with Conor Maguire to see what he reckons. But for the rest of the season, Stevie, again, thanks for coming on to the podcast and sharing your experience, and the very best luck for whatever the rest of 2026 has in store for you.
Great, Mickey. Thanks very much.
This podcast is sponsored by Velo Yellow, providing bike transport to events across Europe. Supported also by Fear the Turtle Triathlon Coaching, Conway Cycles and Vitalize Omagh. Contact details available in the episode description.
Next up is Conor Maguire. Conor, just before we get into the Alpe d'Huez bit, I want to bring you back to the last time you were on the podcast. We were talking shortly after the Sheephaven 70.3. And we were looking forward to future events, one of which, of course, was Try the Lock. And I have got some fantastic memories of that particular podcast. We had a lot of really good feedback. But I suppose the big question was, how did you finish up in Try the Lock? Of course, I know the answer. But for anybody else that doesn't, let us know how things went for you.
Try the Lock could not end any better. That was the elusive tuning for a long time. This was my 8th attempt at trying to win the race. And for the first time, I've finally got to stand at that very top step of the podium. And it's joyous. It's a relief. It's a big weight off my shoulders. But overall, it's just a testament to never giving up, really, in that dream. Always, every time you're at the lock between swimming, running around laps, you're thinking, okay, right, this is what we're working towards. And it came down to the wire. Had fantastic competition this year from up and coming, brilliant, fast triathletes, Sean Geiger. And I think the gap between us and the finish line went down to the last turning cone there in Loch McCrory, and with some very biased marshals and support, let's say, on course, shouting Conor, go Conor, and sprinted for everything that I was worth. And the memories over the home straight, reaching the finish line, and everyone being there to support, between my mum and dad's, between all the other members of my triathlon club who know how much this race means to me. It was a truly special day. So, absolutely amazing time since we last spoke in the podcast.
Brilliant stuff. There's a fantastic photograph of you on the internet taken by Johnny Collins. Kind of captures the emotions. It's a very atmospheric photograph of you just sitting down with hands on your head, just praying. Maybe having a wee prayer. I don't know, but it kind of seemed to capture what it meant to you.
To win the race, it was a full-on, gassed-out effort, and it went to full VO2 max. And between going as hard as I possibly could towards the finish line and the emotions coupled together, I don't have a notion whether I was praying, whether I was just saying, my God, it's all over, whether it was just all of that weight on my shoulders leaving me. A massive relief and an amazing feeling. But brilliant photograph. Definitely get it printed and I'll get a friend.
Brilliant stuff. You've had a brilliant season to date, Conor, as we're making our way, suppose, towards Ironman Barcelona coming up in October. And the Alpe d'Huez was one of your events that you had slotted into your training calendar. How did the event go for you? What was your sort of thoughts on your swim, bike and run?
So getting there on the swim starts, there was 1,900 people on the start line. We got there and maybe about 2 hours before the start. And from Alpe d'Huez village, we had to cycle downhill, down hairpins, left, right, with our transition bags and heavy wetsuits and all swim equipment. And I remember there was a lot of rain from the night before, and I remember being terrified going down the hill just to get to the race. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my heart is pumping here. And I was thinking, right, okay, this is good practice. This is good training for what goes on later on, because anything that goes up and up to us, apart from the very last climb, must come down. And there was a lot of danger and risks, and it felt like cliff drops in the cycle. But we got there at swim start, had plenty of time to relax yourselves after that cycle downhill from altitude. And so good crack between us. We had brilliant OTC turnouts. Everyone was there, all geared up, ready to go. You get the start line, and after about a swim warm up, which was no way at all warm up, the water was absolutely Baltic, and it would make Sheep Haven look like a warm bath, really. Between, I think it's a hydro station type water that's constantly in a state of flow, and it's Baltic, the water. Beautiful colour to look at, everything, but in the warm up, you're thinking, oh my God, we have to swim in this. But thankfully, get out of the water. We're in the starting pen for a good while. I was there between Jude and Sean, and we'd elbowed our way up to the front. The pro race was starting in front of us. It was a mile start, but just whenever you go over the finish timing line down a big steep ramp. And I remember at the start, we took a hard right and then a big straight line. And whenever, as soon as you got into the water, you were into an absolute melee. It felt like being in, felt like if you're being in a mosh pit, Mickey, and one of the gigs you might have been at in your younger days, between being elbowed, shoved, pushed. At one stage, someone yanked back my leg, literally, and I'm thinking, Jesus, just keep your head down, keep the arms nice and wide, and try and stick to some sort of line going outwards. And I did that, and responded well to any time it did get kicked or hit or anything. And we were wearing dark blue swim caps, and the pros are wearing light green. And I found myself quickly, no longer seeing dark blue swim caps, but seeing light green. I'm like, right, okay, this is a good thing. You're up here in the pro race. I think there was near 100 male pros and 20 female pros. Right, if you're in here, you stay in here and don't lose this swim back. And that's exactly what happened. It was 2.2 kilometers, and came out, I think, maybe about 70 or 80 for the water overall. Brilliant swim. So straight up the ramp was one of the steepest ramps imaginable. You're near dizzy going up to try and get your bike. And from the word go in the cycle, you're straight uphill. Shoes properly clipped on, none of this fancy flying mount stuff that I would do at them sprints. And the start of the race was after the first initial climb out of transition. It was very flat and fast. It was on the aero bars, TT bars for maybe about 15, 20 mile. And then we had the first climb. And the first climb, I think it was maybe about 11 kilometers long. It's 7% gradient. And it was the nicest of all the climbs we did from okay, I managed this, because you're going in fresh, you're still feeling good about yourself. And it was in the shade, most notably. You weren't in the abundant sunshine, which the later climbs brought. So up and down and cycle. And again, seeing a lot of race belts around with the numbers on, and seeing pro written Pro, and a few females up at the very front of their race too. And I'm thinking, right, you're in good position here. No, I absolutely downhill. I lost a lot of spaces, because I was like, no risk is worth taking what I'm seeing in front of me. I don't know these roads of one bit. Watching a YouTube video or watching overhead, images of the course does not set you up for some of the speed. And some of the racers, some of the bikers from the continent might be used to going down hairpins. So in the cycle, main thing, keeping hydrated, keeping plenty of carbohydrates, trying to get 100 grams per hour in, and plenty of sodium tablets, because sweat losses were absolutely huge. We then went up to the second big climb, Col d'Ornan. And I remember watching the Tour de France a few weeks before the race, and it's on TV didn't even look like there was a climb there. They absolutely flew up it. Yes, they were in a peloton in a certain group, but that's it just looked like flat stretch of road. And I think it was some of the most notable awful bits of suffering I've ever done on a bike mid-race. You were in just real dead heat, no circulating wind. I think the temperatures at that stage would have been just over 30 degrees, maybe 31, 32. And you've seen all the writing on the roads from the likes of Tour de France. And you, even though it was like a false flat, maybe about 3, 4, 5%, it just went on and on and on forever. 14 kilometers, I think it was 5.2%, something like that. But it felt twice that. And again, in your head, it's like, man, please reel it back here because you've got Alpe d'Huez coming up. So got over that and down a big descent back towards the village for Alpe d'Huez. And I seen a few of the Maguires at the very bottom of the climb. And I had all the numbers and everything I wanted to work out. And I was thinking, right, 4 Alpe d'Huez. Okay, but trained, I'd done maybe like on the day I got there, maybe I'll do 7 hairpins of the 21. And then the day before the race, I'll do 5 of them. But I hadn't done the ones in the very start. And I remember the drive up Alpe d'Huez and the first 3 hairpins, it was just like looking straight up. Absolutely straight up. Whether it's, like being in mom or dad, but looking to the very top, I absolutely licking the tarmac in front of you. And there was not enough gears in the bike. You're clicking and nothing's there left. And again, just being in the absolutely baking heat, there's no chance of shade there or tree cover or anything. And it's so difficult. And you try and count them off in your head, like 1 hairpin. Okay. But it's a long time between you're going the second one, okay, the third one. You get a few boosts along the way, like halfway up, there's a lovely village of a church. I mean, there was a big fan zone there where a few of the O'Hagans were there, cheering you on. And there is a lot of aid station. Any water stop, you were just getting a bottle and pouring it over you because the heat was just intense. And it was first time in a race in a long, long time where I've actually been cramping. And looked down my left quad was completely rigid. It felt like it was vibrating at one stage. And my feet were on fire probably from the amount of water that had seeped down and whatever kind of blisters that had, been coming. And the initial target was to the Alpe d'Huez in sub 1 hour. And the train had heart rate of 170 average. Not a chance. No way. Unrealistic. You are that fatigued, sore, absolutely beat up by the course that you've just been on that you just couldn't hit them targets. I mean, so I think I got to the climb and it was 262 watts average and average heart rate was 162. Nowhere near the targets and it just messed out in the sub hour, went 1 hour, 1 minute. To think that Tadej Pogačar did that earlier 2 weeks before that in 32 minutes, 48, having cycled 100 mile, being on stage, 19 in the Tour de France, absolutely unbelievable. It puts into perspective, those guys are phenomenal athletes, really are. Just different grimly. Yes, we're triathletes and I'm fans of myself in the 12 mile run, that was going up against that, but absolutely amazing. The fact that they're doing near 14, he's doing near 14 mile an hour average up. That's whatever I'm getting about 7 and a half. Absolutely amazing. So I reached the top of the village in the T2, racked the bikes and headed out the run. And the initial thoughts on the run was, I can't believe how sore my feet are. Just absolutely in bits from the 75 mile cycle that you just done. And I remember Alana Sifford, that was leading the women's race, was coming around for a second lap. And she was with a big mountain biker. And I'm thinking, right, okay, she's, seems to be not too far in front of me here. I might try and run and catch up and run over her. But not a chance. Conor, again, completely unrealistic. These pros are different. Really, hey, they are absolutely phenomenal. Full-time athletes who devote their full training and they're either training, eating, or resting. Okay, and nothing in between. So during the run, I as I said, I started off and my feet were really sore, especially my left foot. Every footstep felt like I was on fire, like running on hot coals or something. And then by lap 2, every single part of me was sore, so it didn't really matter about the speed anymore. It's just like I'm that
Everything
exhausted.
escalates for the last lap.
Yeah, but overall, I didn't look at my watch once. I've been so meticulous in like races I did earlier this year in the likes of Sheephaven and even Triathlon, where I was looking at average heart rates and, average paces. This run course in Alpe d'Huez is just a war of attrition where you are given every single thing you've got, putting one foot in front of the other, one step at a time to reach that finish line. So pacing it is completely out of the question. And there's a lot of danger, there's a lot of risk because some of the trails, between the stones, rocks and everything make the Gorge and Glens look like a newly tarmac road. So that's just right. Keep your foot in here, keep safe, and keep one foot in the other. And my motto was, don't walk up the big hill. There's a big ascend hill up to maybe about halfway, 2/3 of the run, which we had to do 3 times. I was like, just keep, moving up it, okay? Don't run. I was probably going that slow up at a stage. It would have been just as quick power walking up it, but mentally it was the psychological edge. And my thoughts were just, one foot in front of the other. Don't walk this hill. My run was probably that slow up it that I probably could have power walked at exactly the same speed, but it was just the psychological edge. Yep, you're going well. You're still running. Okay. This was straight down to the plan. Okay. You are, doing well in the race. And during the run, I was really looking forward to maybe see a few of the Triathlon Club other members and I think, see them and looking out for a white choice suit of OTC. But the only person I seen was Stevie. Seen Stevie twice, like the one of the turning cones. And nope, didn't see David, didn't see Sean, Matt. I'm thinking, well, if you haven't seen them, I'm hoping they're still in the race. I'm hoping they're safe. I'm hoping they're going somewhere. But just stick concentrate on the task at hand. And last lap, just went like a blink. I mean, yes, of course I suffered, but it was enjoyable suffering. At that stage, you knew you were going to reach the finish line. And overall, you were going to do a really good time because I was still seeing, the race numbers off, pros around me and doing a few overtakes and not getting overtaken, maybe, at all, really. I think maybe about 2 people might have, got the better of me in the run and overall overtaken. So, coming down a very steep hill to the finish line again, just that thought, right, watch your footing. Don't be sprinting down this. You sprinting over the line is not going to, make the difference. So, got there over the finish line, a good OTC support crew out, and come down the finish line, and girlfriend Terry was there to support me. And as soon as I got over the finish line, just hit the deck, just could not, wait just to lay down on the ground. And then it was a brilliant feeling, off exhaustion, but off relief. It was a crazy week between winning the Try the Lock on Saturday, flying off first thing on Monday morning, and raced it again on Wednesday. Absolutely amazing few days. And then I think the body just ran endorphins, and good vibes the entire way. But it pulled me through the line. So, whenever you got over the finish line, I remember just like, I need something to eat. I need something to eat other than Science and Sport gels or bars or something. And watermelon there. And perhaps then that got me back in the game. So waited around then and seen a few other people finish, like Damien and Marty Lahern. And then I was like, I need to get out of the heat. There was nowhere, up in Alpe d'Huez, up in the ski resort, there's no shade, there's no cover whatsoever. I think at that stage it was sitting about 30 degrees on the dot, even up at altitude there. And it's just right. Okay, I'll come back and see the rest of them finish and go get showered, go get fed, and go get a bottle of red wine to celebrate over the last few days. Because you've been looking forward to this a lot, not having a drink after went and tried to relax. So yeah, it's absolutely lived up to expectations. It's a fantastic day out.
What a review and what a report. One more question. I was wondering, I asked this to Stevie as well. The Alpe d'Huez triathlon is a very unique triathlon. It's a very different triathlon to the Ironman thing. It's not even the same distances as our traditional long distance events. Where does it stack up, Conor, with your experience of various triathlons and various brands? Would you compare the Alpe d'Huez to an Ironman 70.3 or, what's your sense of where it is? Where does it fit in the whole spectrum?
I would say it's the equivalent to doing a full Ironman, in terms of the effort level, expenditure, and just how dialed in you have to be in that bike course between the risk of, going down some of the descents, the other bikers around you, because it's a very congested bike course. So there's a lot of people who are going to be fighting even to get the racing lines down some of the descents. You just have to be fully concentrating the entire time. It is a brilliant race from financial perspective too. It's a lot cheaper than Ironman. For the race, I think I paid with cancellation, and I think the race entry was €240. For that, we got lovely straw hat on the finish line now, which we're all wearing about. I haven't worn it since, maybe, because the weather's been that bad and raining every day. Then, when you're, we got a lovely backpack, the same standard that you would get in an Ironman race, and we got a finisher t-shirt that's wearing now, about the 20 years, and then in between. The support we got on course, organisation, absolutely fantastic race, I would say. And fellow Yellow cover it. And the services were absolutely top notch. In terms of providing our bikes to and from Omagh, full way up to Alpe d'Huez, waiting for us there. And whenever the day after, the evening after we'd done the race, absolutely top class service. So if anyone out there is thinking about doing Alpe d'Huez triathlon, get ready to suffer, accept the pain, and 100% sign up. That's a must do. And the weather, we were out there and the entire time. Going to a ski resort in the summer is niche. But again, it's not like you're missing beaches or sand or anything like that at all. The weather was absolutely phenomenal. The views of the Alps. And it's a classy place up there. It's an upmarket ski resort in the summer. So all the restaurants, still full operational, lovely places to be. There's a big outdoor swimming pool, which we were at days before the race. Absolutely brilliant trip. Even going on the ski lifts, and the views on them, and the days after the race, whenever I could hardly walk and they were doing the job for me, I didn't have to worry about hiking or anything. And so, brilliant trip. But I would say one and done. I can't imagine signing up for that race again, because it is so extreme. It is absolutely everything that you could ever want, and an adrenaline rush, and between amazing views. But for the pain and suffering and the danger, I'd say one and done. Never again. Loved it, lived it, but never again.
Conor, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. I'm sure this will not be the last time I'll be chatting to you, particularly this year, with a few more things to take care of before the year's out, and I'll look forward to linking in with you again. So keep on training, and hopefully I'll see you at the start line of Ironman Barcelona on the 4th of October.
Can't wait to play in it.